Hello and welcome to the lecture. So let's continue with the more options on the interactive grid. So we saw about the customizing through the JavaScript initialization. If I go to this page here, and with the interactive grid, we have seen that in the attribute side, we can use the JavaScript initialization and add our own customizations we want. But there is a case, right? You wanna use the interactive grid option, and that should not be in this toolbar level, and that should be somewhere outside of the region or somewhere top of the region. For example, the save button. If you don't want to see the save button here, in some designs of UX you can see the save button will be preferred on the top of the interactive grid, not on the exact center. So we want to make it to the top corner, so we can do that as well, achieving through the invoking methods, and that's through AJAX APIs. And we'll see that now, and we'll create a button for the first case. And also we need to display the header here. The header region by default for the interactive grid template is removed, so we can use that by going to the region here, and we have the template, right? So we can change this to standard template. For now it's on the interactive report template, so I'm just changing it to standard, not the tabs, standard. And here we have the header thing, right? So by default it is visible, and also if we want to add some customizations we can add, but for now we just make this to header to default and save it. And we can see the header now. Yeah, so we can see that. So it's a bit, a separate kind of a container, you can understand now with the heading here. And our save button, we are planning to move it to this header, right? And that will be invoking this save. So we have an invoke function there, and that's achieved through AJAX APIs, which you'll be seeing now. So now, before that, we have to define the static ID of a region, because I'm going to the region properties, you can find that static ID. If you didn't do that, AJAX will be having some random number in the ID. If you inspect it, you can get that. And if you inspect, and if you go to the here on the div, you can see that we have this ID, and this is the ID for this interactive grid region, which is in kind of a random number. So we will change that now to some name like s_stores. So I'm just changing that and saving it, and we can see now the inspect element. We can go to this, and we are in the same previous position, right? So now the ID is changed, pointing to this region what we have given. So using this we can achieve the invoke save. So we will start by using at the console level, then we'll create a button and use it to our purpose. So how to start is by the AJAX API followed by the region. So AJAX.region, and here we need to give a parameter, that is the static ID. So that is should be in quotes. So s_stores, and if you return this, it will return me some some information on that region, what is this, and the widget, and lots of things out there. We are not gonna deep into this, and mostly we'll be going to this call that will have some further functions to be used inside as a parameter. So call has a lot of things, and all we want is to get the actions. If you want, we can get selected records, a lot of things out there. So we are gonna get the actions on this interactive grid region. So if we put call get actions, we can get some few things like the hide, invoke, and then list. This will list all the actions if we put the list function. And to remove all these or a function with accepting as the as the action as the parameter in most cases. We're gonna go with some useful things here. So we remember that our action for the save button is just a save. So we will be using that for the next one. So dot, first we'll get the list and then we'll go with the actions. So if we use the list, we will be seeing a lot of actions here. Every actions now, instead of putting console at the toolbar data, we can get every action of the interactive grid through this easy way. So we can see that from the search, then filter column and the search one here, even all the sub menus, everything is an action, right? So all these are listed now with some name and the label. So this is what it's good thing to approach and get the action name. So if we can see from the row, add row means here we at the row level we have the row add row. This add row stands for the row add row, where you can see at this here, and here we have selection add row, that is this add row, selection add row. So whatever starts with row hyphen will be at this the hamburger, whatever starts with the selection will be at the top. So whatever is selected, we can use this one also. This is also selection part, selection actions. So selection duplicate means this one, row duplicate means this one. So you'll be seeing that here. So we're not gonna go deep much here. So we will focus on this part, how to use the action. So we are gonna use the invoke here instead of the list. I'm putting the invoke, and if I put save, nothing will happen. So because we are invoking save, right? So obviously we need to have some changes so in that data, so in the grid. So I'm gonna do some changes right here. So www.some.shop.com, something random name I'm giving. So I'm gonna invoke save here. We don't have save button, so that's why I'm gonna use this JavaScript to save it. So if I use invoke save and it's calling the saved and it's changed, you can confirm by either refreshing here, it is refreshed and there are no revert changes also. So if I refresh this and it will be saved. So this is how we are gonna use the invoke. If you wanna use the interactive grid action somewhere outside the JavaScript initialization block, you can make out of this apex.region.call of get action and then the invoke. So we can use that by creating a button here in this region. So I'm gonna create a button by the name save, and this will be the position, right? So we are gonna put at the top right corner, I mean the right of the header. So we can visualize that by the layout, and this has the better implementation. So we're not gonna put at this extreme previous next, we're gonna put at the edit, this all at the right side only. So at the edit position it would be fine to start with. So we're gonna put it to edit, and this will be changed to edit button position. So this is a better visualization. This all holds the top of the region content, and that's how. So if you want below region, you can do that. We are putting at the top, and this close undo change will be the below of the region, below of the IG, I would say. And this will be dynamic action. So we are gonna define a dynamic action. So right click and create a dynamic action, and I'm gonna use save IG, and this would be click. So we're gonna copy this what we have entered, and I'm gonna copy and paste it as JavaScript code. So we'll paste here, and since our save button was hot in the IG, we will make this as hot as well, and that's how. So we're gonna save this, and we'll see the design here with save as the right side of the region. So this looks fine, you can see. So it will be like a save. Some UX designers prefers, it depends. So it's not like I have to keep the save here, it's depending on the application wise. So this is just an example. So now I'm gonna clear this address and I'm gonna save it. So it got saved. So for confirmation we can see. So this is how we can invoke the actions for IG. And additionally, if you wanna rechange the design of the interactive grid, let's say here we have the actions and download, right? Instead of putting the download here and we wanna put it somewhere at the top, maybe at position where this drop down is, we can do that and invoke it again. So let's do that, and we're gonna use the same apex.region.invoke that part for this, and going to this attributes, we have defined the action, right? So we're gonna rename that drop down to our own download action. So going to this, what we have seen, right? So to remove this, we can just make it somewhat, simplified way, and we have added this as object, right? So my select toolbar. So we will add our own, let's save it, name here, like, so we'll add one like my button toolbar. So this would be button, and this would be somewhat my button. Okay, so we'll copy this and we will replace that. We are gonna not show the select list, is just for an example, and it doesn't make sense to be there as well. So we are gonna use that here as this one, and we have to replace the action as well. So here at the action, this is the one, so this would be my button, and we don't want choices here. We are gonna focus on the action part alone, and here we are gonna use the apex.region that one. So we have to get the action name right. So we are gonna copy this and we'll see the list one. So here we can get the download here. So we'll see we have around this one labels the download. So this the show download dialog action and the position 30. Yeah, so I'm pasting that here and we'll copy this as well. Yeah, copying it, and I'm replacing this as the invoke, and even the label. Yeah, so label we haven't given, right? So that in that object we need a real label, because that is not a select drop down. We need some kind of a label object here. So we'll add it after this, and we'll put download and we'll save it. Hope we can understand what I'm doing from the previous lecture. It's very easy to get, and you can see the download one. So basically this download will open in this window, and I can splice it. That also can be done, and I can use this download as well. So I can remove from here at the attributes, like actions.remove from the init actions function. So if you can see from the init actions, I can remove from the first case actions.remove, because then that's a menu item inside a menu, so it removes by using the action name. Okay, I will just copy that from this. So if I click, it won't work, because why, I will tell you, because we have removed the actions, right? That is not part of the action side. It is removed, means we can't even ever use it. So this is the main thing. So if you are using actions.remove, it won't invoke the actions anywhere in the page of this region. So that's why we should not remove. If you want to remove permanently and not even used anywhere, at the case we don't want this duplicate row never to be happen from the user side, you can remove, and even the download. But if you are invoking and you want to hide this here, so it's better to go with some different way. So that can be done in using the hide, that is from this what we have seen, right? So this has an API called hide, this get actions. So we have remove as well over here, this remove of function. If we put, it works the same as we actually do actions.remove, but actions.hide won't work. But if we want to use to hide, we can use this from the apex.region. So we have the hide here, so we will use this. So going here, and we need not put on the action side, we can put it on the page load, or we can put it here as well, because this is just initializing on the from the toolbar, right? So from the interactive grid once it is loaded, so it's better to keep everything in this side. So if you want to do some operation here, so this will be replaced to hide. So I'm gonna click OK and save. And yeah, okay, so still we are in the error side, and we cannot use the actions again, because the actions part is, if you are calling from here, it won't work. And that should be as a thing, right? Once the IG is rendered, only we have to use these functions. This invoke or hide cannot work here at the level once the page is loaded, or once the interactive grid is initialized at that level. So you can use the interactive grid events like after refresh or in that way. So once the page is refreshed, you can use our interactive grid page change event. Even at some times we can use the page loads as well, but it is not an ideal solution to keep here. In some cases this won't work, why I would tell you. So I'm gonna put it on the page load, so this will hide it. So if I'm gonna refresh this, and it is not invoke, right? So it is hide. So even invoke won't work, where basically I copied the invoke one, but all are the same. So if you go to the actions, we don't find the download here, so it works fine. But ideally this is a page load, and if it couldn't find this interactive grid rendered in the first case, it will throw an error. So the best way is to put on the case whenever we are, have the interactive grid at the page change, we have a event here. So we are gonna put at the interactive grid page change. This will try to initialize. Once the interactive grid is initialized, we can use this interactive grid as anything, so we can customize it instead of putting on the initialization. So this will work if you are gonna put it here. So this is with respect to the interactive grid, we are gonna put stores, and we'll put the JavaScript. So this is the ideal way to put for any interactive grid or any region, because the level of execution is the page load will be rendered first if that's any script, and this interactive grid we have only one, so it is a bit fast to initialize. But if there is a lot of interactive grids, or if there is any region display selector that takes time to load, or in the case it is not a proper thing to put it on the page load, because apex.region is sometimes will take time to load it. So that's the thing. So we'll put at the one here. Okay, we have already copied, right? So we'll put the hide one. So this works the same, it won't be appearing. So this is about the page change. So page change is the best way to add any further initializations that are with respect to the interactive grid, and we can customize our toolbar data. That is different thing. But if you wanna use that actions which are rendered in the interactive grid and you want to do something after it's loaded, then better use the page change. And even you can disable that as well. You can use disable here. This also works. It will be disabled here, so it's disabled, right? So I can use this download in my useful case, but it won't work because that's disabled means the action is completely disabled. That's why. So what you have to do is you have to enable that from here. So let me copy this, but that is a bit trickier thing, so you have to re-disable again. So better to hide that in the case. So let me just implement this and show it to you. So these are just advanced topics for the JavaScript that can be done. So we are gonna enable and disable it. So it's removed here, but here it will work. Internally it's disabled, but we are enabling and disabling, but from here it's getting disabled permanently. So that's how about that. So if you wanna do more things, you can explore again on the button side. So hope this all covers it, and we still have a lot of things to explore at the model level. So with the selected records, we want to process it and get the value or set some validation dynamically, and all these things. More onto this data side we'll see at the next lecture.